Yeah, you know what? First flight of the season. I'll just fire it right up and away we go, right? Wrong. Welcome to the superpilotish channel. My name's Graham Wilson, and today in my basement, I'll be giving you some tips on the first flight of the season. Maybe you're an airplane owner or something like that. Maybe there's a plane that's been sitting there and somebody wants you to fly it, but it hasn't been flying for a little while. So you might want to do a little bit of extra careful inspection here and there. And I'll give you a few tips on what to check out. I will be using multiple whiteboards today, so that's pretty exciting. And oh yeah, everybody survived the end of the world eclipse. I'm doing just fine. It was kind of cool to watch it, actually. It was just to the south of where I am, so it was pretty cool to watch. And anyways, the way that you are going to treat this flight that you haven't done in a while is kind of treat it like a test flight. So now I'm not an official test pilot, but sometimes you have to test out things as a pilot. If you're doing it for a job, you got to go mechanics work on something, and then you got to take it up. And for certain things that get worked on your airplane, a test flight is required. So there you go. You get paid to go fly around and check something out. It's always kind of neat to do a test flight. But it's always just a little, ooh, it's a test flight. Uh-oh. So that means like normal people can't fly it, just people getting paid. So, oh, hey, April, and hey, Wrench, welcome to the show. So, yeah, just like any other flight that you're going to be taking, it actually starts at home, maybe in my basement. So, the first flight of the season starts at home. What are you going to do at home? What could you possibly do at home that has anything to do with the aviation? Well, I made a little cheat sheet down here like I usually do. I was just coming up with idea after idea, and I never really thought about it too much. I just kind of do this stuff, and then it's like, well, that's a lot to consider. So now the number one thing is to not be in a rush. You get into a rush, which means that when you're at home, be well rested, get all kinds of time. Take your time getting to the airport. Count on everything taking longer because everything always takes longer than you think, anyways. But if you want to pay extra attention to things, it takes even longer. So yeah, leave lots and lots of time. And when you're at home, you can also check the weather, make sure it's all reasonable. You don't want to be going. You might be a little rusty with your skills. Who knows how your airplane's going to perform? You don't want to be going out and like rushing to beat a thunderstorm or something. That's not cool. That's not fun flying. And all your documentation, is your medical up to date? Is your license expired? Is if you have your own airplane, when was the last time you did an annual inspection? One of the things that I found with pilots that are recreational flyers is they underestimate how long it's been since they've flown. So I've had people come in and say, "Oh yeah, I just went flying last year." I said, "Oh, let me see your logbook," and it was like 3 years ago. It's like, wait, you haven't flown in 3 years? Oh, it was like, yeah, your medical's been expired for a year too. Oh, So it's when you're away from the airport, time does some kind of weird thing, and and it's easy for documentation to be expired. So you want to make sure you're nice and legal. And for this test that I'm suggesting, you might want to call up the control tower too if you have a control tower at your airport. And I'll be getting into your pattern, your flight test pattern that you're going to be doing. I'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, so there's a few things to do there, and you can rewind and listen to me do that all again if you didn't take notes. Okay, so now you get out to the airport and you are going to do your pre-flight inspection. So we'll just do that. Or the walk around, as they call it. You walk around the airplane, check things out. But if you want to be cool and sound all piloty, you say the pre-flight inspection. Pre-flight, what are you going to do? Okay, you're going to be doing the best pre-flight inspection you've ever done in your entire life because it's a test flight. So that's what I did. One airplane where I was working at, we were considering buying it, and so someone said, "Hey, Graham, go take this plane up for a test flight." And And the mechanic told me, do the best walk around pre-flight inspection that you've ever done in your life. I'm like, well, why? The guy flew it down here. And he says, yeah, but you have no idea who's maintaining that plane. You have no idea how it's been abused or anything like that. You check every nut and bolt and rivet and everything. So I was like, oh, okay. I will take your advice, senior mechanic. And so I did. And they ended up buying the plane and everything was okay. But yeah, the pre-flight inspection, if the plane has been sitting for a long time, I don't have a magic number on how many months it should be. Like, oh, if it's 1 month, usually a month isn't too bad if you've been flying it in a month, in a month. But airplanes are just like any other type of machinery, whether it's a car or a motorcycle or your lawnmower. The longer it sits, the more things can seize up and not really work. So this machinery likes to be used. It's engineered to be used. It's not engineered to be kind of stopped while it's running hot, cool down, and then sit there for a year. So what you got to do is I'm going to show you how to check for water in your fuel. So this is, I would probably say, the most catastrophic thing that I've ever haven't actually seen or witnessed, but I've heard about and I've known people that this has happened to. And it happens all the time, every single spring. And this is a real easy thing to eliminate a cause of an accident. And usually people walk away. Sometimes they don't. So we don't want any of that. We want everyone walking away, preferably with the airplane in one piece. Hey, Harold, welcome to the show. So here we go. Every airplane that you have, there's some, even the big jets, there's a way of draining a little bit of fuel out of the bottom of the wing or where the tank is, or maybe it's in the fuselage of the plane. And you drain it out and you'll say, oh, I just drained out some fuel. It looks like this. And you say, wait a minute, that's not colored. Usually, fuel will be for little airplanes, it's kind of a blue color. And then if it's jet fuel, it'll be kind of like, it'll look like, regular diesel fuel or something like that. Although they do have farm red diesel. So we'll say it looks like kind of a straw. It looks pretty much like regular gasoline you put in your lawnmower. So you got that. Hey, that looks totally clear. Wait a minute. I should be seeing gasoline in there. So, okay, you take that and you just give it a sniff. Oh, that's water. So you dump it out. Now I was going to get some actual gasoline and put it in the water here, but I don't want to blow up my basement, so we're using olive oil here today just to demonstrate. So you throw it in the water, and that's not right. And I have seen that before where I've drained it out, and it's like, wait, that's supposed to be blue, and it's clear. That's water. And don't sniff it too hard. Get all stoned. So here we go. You should be able to see when now it won't be exactly all bubbly like this olive oil is, but for just for demonstration purposes, you'll be able to see a definite line between your fuel. Well, I don't know if you can see that better. What if I get some white behind it? Will you be able to see it better with the white? Yeah, there we go. So the light's kind of doing some weird reflection on it, but you can see. All right, there we go. This will probably show up on the YouTubes. But anyways, you can see that layer of oil on top, and then it's clear. As you can see my face behind it. I don't know. And yeah, so you want to see that, you'll see that layer, and you go, wait a minute, I got gasoline up here, and I got water down here, and it's a definite line just like that. If it was aviation fuel, it'd be blue there. You'd see, I don't know, you'd see clear underneath. So you take that, you dump that away, and then ideally you drain it out again, and there's no more of this clear stuff, and it's the proper color that you want. I hope I don't spill that talking with my hands or anything. So I just figured I'd show you. Yeah, there should be. If you see a line like that, that bottom part's white or it's clear. That's water. That's not good for your engine. And who knows? Is there in the other tank? Is there a bunch of water? Is that like I've just seen multiple airplanes end up in fields because they didn't check that. And oops, got a little water, and that water doesn't burn if you didn't know. Believe it or not, it doesn't. So that's the big one to watch for. If your airplane's been sitting for a long time, that has caused more accidents than I would like to even think about that I know of. That I just know of. And if I know about this many, it's happening everywhere. So fuel is very important if it's been can you get the can you get the impression that fuel is important to an airplane? So yeah, so there's that one. The other thing to watch out for is if you have an airplane that shares a hangar with anybody else at all, you can really watch out for what they call a hangar rash. So hangar rash is, oh, I'll just move the snowblower in here. Oop, oh, it just kind of ding the wingtip a bit, or the elevator. Oops, just a little bit. Or oh, I'll pull the plane out and put it back in. Oop, scratch the wingtip on that. Ooh, backed it up too far. I hit the pole back there. It was a little crooked, and I dinged the tail. That can happen, or people moving other airplanes around. If you got multiple airplanes in a hangar, oh yeah, keep coming, crunch. Oh, ooh, okay, don't tell them about it because hangar rash happens, and we'd like to think that pilots are all very honest people and everything. I'd like to, but some it might be the friends of the pilots that do this, and I'm not going to tell anyone. But if you ever do damage somebody's airplane, you got to tell them about it because just a little ding on your I don't know, on your horizontal stabilizer or something like that, that can throw off the, even if it's off just a little bit, it could throw off the balance of your elevator. It can make the flying characteristics all weird, just from a very little small bump, and so yeah, you got to watch out for the hanger rash. And another one to do, another thing that I was just thinking about, it got it on my cheat sheet, is leaks. So it's been sitting there for a while, and then you'd be like, hey, wait a minute, what's that puddle doing under there? You don't want to see puddles under your airplane. So it could puddle up. It could be something, maybe some kind of leaky hose from the engine, a little bit of oil there or something. Some planes will leak oil anyways from the breather from the engine. It depends on the design of the airplane. That some just they just leak. That's just the way it is. And there's a certain amount of leakage that's okay, and there's a certain amount that's not. And then so brake lines would be a big one. Take a look if there's any type of drip or blob or anything. I've seen brake lines that are just have the tiniest little bubble of hydraulic, brake fluid on it, and it's a leak. You pump that a few times, it'll be squirting out. You won't see it because it's under your wing, or you won't be looking at it. So watch out for leaks for your brake lines. It could be fuel, or if you look on the ground, if it's a slow drip, it can go down and then it kind of splatters and then evaporates. So if you look around, you see like a blue, if you have a little airplane, it'll be blue fuel, but it's all dried up. So you see like a little blue ring there. Where does that come from? It came from a little tiny drop that instantly like evaporated, but the dye from the fuel is still there on the ground. So watch out for that too. Another one too, if you store your airplane outside, okay, that's when all kinds of weird stuff can happen. So, I mean, birds love making birds' nests in the engine intakes and heater intakes and stuff like that. I've also seen it where I had a student doing a pre-flight inspection, and he found this chestnut. And he's like, "Hey, is this not supposed to be in with the engine?" I'm like, "No." But a squirrel comes up. Hey, this is a good place for a chestnut. Boom. The squirrels always like to leave you little gifts. I don't know. I get little bits of pita bread in my lunch or in my my mailbox here sometimes, and those squirrels are quite nice. But we don't want them leaving gifts in our engine, so we're gonna watch out for that. Mice, mice can crawl here and there and everywhere. And do you have a fabric covered airplane that maybe they could go by the tail wheel and get up in there and take a little nibble through the fabric, and all of a sudden you got a mouse nest back there? That can happen too. So you want to be kind of checking out for any of that. And the other thing for pre-flight inspection, I am not really a big fan of. I like a lot of people like to put their iPads all over the cockpit and stuff like that, and that's okay for just normal day-to-day flying, and everything's cool. But if you're going to be doing a flight test, You want to be really on your game, like number one. You don't want to be, I don't know, worried about, it's not updating. And the thing is, those screens are such a distraction that it's like you don't need that. If you're going to be doing your test flight, you don't want that iPad there. Leave it in your flight bag, and then once you're done your test flight, everything's cool. Put all the screens up wherever you want, and cameras and whatever you want to do. That's my opinion. Okay, so now we checked out our airplane. Everything is absolutely fine. And number three. So what we're going to do next is we are going to do what they call a run up. And if you're all piloty, you'll know what a run up is. Run up is, okay, so you fire up the airplane, everything's looking pretty cool. You taxi out there somewhere, not right on the runway, somewhere out of the way. Turn your nose into the wind for proper cooling of your engine. And you're going to sit there and rev it up and check every little thing on there. Extra special because your plane's been sitting for so long. Now, I've seen one of my guys that used to work for me, he went to go fly some guy's plane that was like, old guy's like, hey, I haven't been flying in a while. I'll take an instructor with me. So he gets in there and he starts doing what they call the run up. He revs it all up, and the tachometer was like all over the place. Just all the gauges it was jumping, and it like you couldn't get an accurate reading on it. So that could be indication of maybe there's a cable that's failing, or some other, I don't know, depending on how it's all designed, whatever. But you don't want bouncy gauges. You want to be able to read it. And because, is my oil pressure low? I don't know. You want to know how things are running. So you're going to be checking everything out on the ground, revving it up. And this is what I would add to what you would normally do, is do an extra long run up. So like take 10 minutes on the ground. Don't overheat your engine or anything like that. Maybe even give it full power for a few seconds. And just, if you are doing that, make sure you got your stick all the way back, or you got your yoke all the way back, so your plane doesn't want to start skipping and flying on you. Actually, it was kind of neat. There was I went to go see up in Gatineau, Quebec. There was a place, Vintage Wings is the name of the place, and they got a little tour there, and there was like this big chain on the ground. I'm like, what's the chain for? Like a big thick chain link chain there. And he's like, oh, that's so if we bring the Spitfire out here, we can do a full power run up. I was like, whoa, you guys need a chain? He's like, yeah, if you don't chain the tail wheel, it starts skipping across the apron. Oh, wow, okay, that's a lot of horsepower. So if you have to chain down your tail wheel like a Spitfire, chain it down, man, and give her some full power. Because when you're all these airplanes that I've noticed, when there's an engine failure on takeoff, like it's always on takeoff with full power applied, and that's when their engine fails. Like it's every time I've ever heard of it. So I would say give it an extra long one, even get it up to full power. And are you really developing full power? I don't know. Is it running? Is there anything weird? Do you have a fouled spark plug in there? Is it, there's a lot of things you can check on the ground that you want to take care of on the ground rather than up in the air. So there's that. And then now you're going to go take off. Okay. So let's get number 4 up here. I'm not doing the superpilotish 5 today because I got like 7 things. So here we go. Number 4. Now you're going to take off. Okay. Like I said before, when you take off, that's when everybody's engine fails. Be prepared. So not everybody's engine failed, but all the guys that had problems with their fuel, it's been sitting a long time. It was always on takeoff, and they all walked away. Some planes are in better states of repair than others, but that's when it's going to mess up on you on your takeoff, and to a smaller extent landing, but mostly on takeoff that you got to worry about this. If you're landing, you're already kind of close to the ground when things fail. So what you're going to do there is just mentally prepare for, okay, if this engine quits, what am I going to do? Do you remember what your best glide speed is? so that you can keep your. I'll bring out the KD-12X here. So yeah, so you're taking off. Remember, you're taking off like this. Your nose is up in the air. Oh, and your engine quits. Now, if you're a pilot and your engine is not going, if you're like this and you just keep it like that, you run out of speed and down you go. So you have to be kind of prepared for. I'm climbing up like this. Oop, my engine quits, and then now, do you remember that speed you got to nail? It's probably something around what you normally come into approach at, but it'd be good to know the actual number. Maybe it's 70, maybe it's 85, or whatever it might be. And then my engine quits, stuff that nose down right away. And so, like, you have to be going from, whoa, I'm looking way up in the air to, ooh, I'm almost looking at the ground. And that has to come very quickly because you're not going that fast. And the difference, you could lose speed very quickly like that. And then you want to go down, and then you're not doing you're just basically going straight ahead. But check that out before you even get in the plane. Is there a good place I could put down into a field if I had to? Is there just, I can make a little turn over here and I can make that nice long farmer's field? So that's what you want. So just from my experience, from people I've known that's happened to, takeoff that's a very critical part of if you haven't been flying for a while. And don't be scared, because most of the time this doesn't happen. And this is only just for pilot. This is kind of piloty. If you're a non-pilot, you'll be freaking out, but that's okay. We do this without passengers on board. Oh, that's another thing. Don't bring any passengers. Just do it yourself. I can't believe I forgot that one. Yeah, that's just kind of, all test flights are solo. Unless it's a 2-crew operation, then you got to do 2. Okay, now we're going to go flying around. As they say in the United States of America, you're going to be flying around the pattern. But not the regular pattern. You're going to be doing a pattern above the pattern. And I will show you on whiteboard number 2 what you're going to do. So this is what I normally do for a test flight. It's been recommended to me by it's just kind of what you do for like engine break-ins or anything, maybe anything that's, I don't know, maybe you did some kind of work on the oil system or something like that. You did a leak test. It's okay, but we kind of want to run it a bit more. The safest way to do that is, there is your runway. Okay, maybe we got a control tower over here too. I don't know what is that, a VOR or a control tower? I don't know. It's either a VOR or a control tower or something like that. And it's just like your regular circuit, as we say in Canada or Commonwealth countries. You just, your regular circuit's kind of like this to the left, unless it's an irregular one. There you go. So you take off here, you fly over here, you're climbing, you level out, and this is at 1,000 feet above the ground here. Right, 1,000 feet above the ground, and then you come around here, and then you come back and land. And so that's how everyone practices their takeoffs and landings. Now, if you're going to be, what I like to do is you request from the tower, I want to do a 2,000 foot pattern. So you just climb up, keep climbing, and now you're at 2,000 feet above the ground, and you're just flying a level pattern like that. So if your engine conks out, come back to the runway, and you got that extra buffer of an extra 1,000 feet, and then everybody else can be coming and going into the airport 1,000 feet below you, which is good separation. I'm sure the control tower would probably let you do that. So you do that, fly around for a half hour or so, make sure all your temperatures and everything are all good, come back, and then there we go. Everything going cool. And the thing is, just because everything's going cool here doesn't mean that you can go, oh, I'm gonna go down to Sun and Fun now. It's like, no, you don't do that. Because what you have to do, I was told by a very senior Air Force pilot that used to do test flights all the time, and he always said, brief the flight and fly the brief. So if you're briefing the flight, I'm going to take off. I'm going to be checking my gauges. I'm going to be flying at a 2,000 foot. altitude above the airport. After exactly a half an hour, I'm going to come back and land. There we go. That was your briefing to yourself. And then you fly that exactly. Because when you get back on the ground, you're going to shut down. You're going to land, taxi back, and then shut down. Do another little walk around. Do you see anything leaking now? How's your fuel? Did you burn an unusual amount of fuel? Did you, when you were coming into land, was the engine backfiring strangely? Was there anything weird? So now you've gone through an entire flight. You've taken off. You've landed. Now you're going to check the airplane. Do you have a flat tire now? Did like maybe you were taxiing and something weird happened and you didn't notice? Now you got a flat tire, or it's low or something. Anyways, check it out. Check for leaks. Check for check your fuel. Maybe you sloshed around some more water. Drain it out. Probably not if you've been doing it for a while. But and then after that, now you can put your iPad in there, do all your cool recreational flying that you want. After that, you go get some passengers, and then most important thing, get your passengers. You can fly around safely and have some fun. There we go. Don't forget to do that. Flying's supposed to be fun, right? So anyways, there we go. First flight. We'll do a little review because I like to do that on the Super Pilotish channel. Hopefully the non-pilots aren't too bored by now, but I don't know. I was thinking about taking my first motorcycle ride today. It's supposed to be pretty nice. And so I was going to go over motorcycle stuff, but then I thought, let's put it out there just for the flying community and just a reminder, hey, be safe, from a guy in his basement that has spent thousands of hours up in the air too. Okay, so at home, you're doing all your planning and everything. You are planning. You're disappointing all your passengers saying, hey, you can't come. This is a test flight. Leave yourself lots of time. Check the weather. Make sure your documentation is good. And you can also call up the control tower and tell them that you're going to ask them if it's cool to do your 2,000-foot pattern. Most of the time, they're very accommodating, but you never know if there's an air show that day or something. Forget it. If there's extremely heavy traffic or maybe construction on the runway, they might deny you. But usually, air traffic controllers are there to help you out. So your pre-flight inspection, you are doing a flight test or a test flight. You're doing a test flight. It has to be the best pre-flight inspection you've ever done in your entire life. If it's been sitting for a long time, of course, check for your water in your fuel. Number one, you do not want to see the goblet of fuel. Can you see it? Hey, there we go. There's your multiple color. Clear on the bottom, yellow on the top. Means you are not going flying until that's all one color and not clear. Like I say, the number one cause of engine failure is that after your plane's been sitting a while. Okay, watch out for the hanger rash, oil leaks, bird's nest, squirrels, mice, etc., and don't put your iPad in there quite yet. For your run-up, okay, run-up, make sure it is extra long, just in case you didn't have if you did have a little water left, it'll make it through on the ground, your engine will fail on the ground, big deal. Look at it. Yeah, you can always, what do we got here? For your run up. Oh yeah, and then I forgot to mention too, keep it kind of on the lean side so you don't foul any spark plugs. For your takeoff, make sure that you know your best glide speed and make sure you got enough distance to take off, and that's when everybody has the big problems. So mentally prepare for you to stuff that nose if you have to and land straight ahead, more or less. Okay. Then your pattern, like I said before, that's your 2,000-foot AGL. There we go. And so gives you a little extra buffer in case anything weird goes wrong. Then you're coming into land. After that, you're going to go over, shut down, do another, basically the same old walk around and everything that you've done before and check for anything weird. And then you get your passengers and you go have some fun. All right, there we go. fly safely, everybody. So I'll just go through here and see if there's any little comments. Any comments, any kind of concerns. And April is our neighbor, pretty close. April and uh, Harold Cheeseburger live pretty close to here. Okay. What do we got here? Wrench. What then? Wrench went to Texas to see the totality and look for birds carefully. Yeah, you gotta watch. You always look out for those birds. What do we got here? Thinking of starting at home. Maybe you can show me how to plan a flight these days. Do I need a chart and plotter? E6B, something I need to do in the tablet GPS to plan. Do I call weather brief file? Yeah, there's if you haven't done yeah, that could get pretty technical. And the thing is, if you are planning a flight, usually the type of flight planning that it's really hardcore to get your pilot's license. It's like old school. You're using this weird little flight calculator and you're making all these little plans and revising ETAs and all this stuff like they used to do basically back in the 40s and 50s. And then they kind of realistically they kind of stopped doing that. So but they still teach it old school here, how to do that. That's not really necessary once you got your license there, Wrench. But yeah, I just like what I always tell people is to be familiar with whatever navigation you're using. GPSs are fantastic for that, whether it's the onboard GPS with the airplane, or even you got your iPad, you got ForeFlight and stuff like that, or even Google Maps on your. I did a cross country trip with a student once, just using Google Maps on his phone because we kind of forgot our map at home, but. Oh, well, he was a really good student. He ended up passing. I mean, we could just see the highway that would take us back home anyway, so we didn't get lost or anything. But yeah, just use whatever you need. And the most important thing is to be familiar with that when you're starting at home, using whatever simulators or just practicing at home or whatever you can do. That'd be my quick answer to that one, Wrench. So what have we got here? There we go. F-15 has a tail hook for run up. Well, I guess that's what they would do for run ups, eh? For the oh, here we go. Wrong already. I like that you corrected yourself about the F-15. Google says the hook's for an emergency landing. I guess so. And then we got here too. Now we just get in and type direct to, basically. And if you're off, you hit direct to again. Follow that line, and away you go. And then, of course, we have Adam Thomas, of course, following the roads, baby, IFR. Or if you're up in Northern Ontario, it's I follow rivers because there's no roads up there. Yeah, there we go. That is a good way to do it too. Totally acceptable. I knew this old guy, old Roger at the airport. He would fly down to Florida and stuff from here. He'd just get like a road atlas and he'd just follow the highways. Oh yeah, it's you going to Miami? Oh yeah, you take I-94 for that one. It's like another time, what was it? Yeah, Roger was he had a little Cessna 150 and he fly down to Florida a couple times. He did. And he didn't want to go over the mountains, so he went the long way, like through around Kansas, like where Wrench lives. And yeah, he got all lost because he was following the wrong highway on his road atlas map, and he just landed somewhere. And he said, "Hey, where am I? I need some gas." So oh yeah, you're here at this airport. Found it on the map. Oh, okay, I'll just follow this highway to get down to Florida. Thanks. Hopped in and off he went. But things were a little bit different back then. That was probably in about the 70s, I think, when he did that. Okay. Right. Oh, what do we got here? That's right. It's cheaper. There's no 56-day update schedule. Yeah. Yeah, Adam knows Roger too. Nice old guy. Okay, that is about it. And okay, what's going on here next? Today is Wednesday. It's pretty nice out there. I'm going to check the weather. I'm gonna start my planning at home here. Find a city, Windsor. What's the weather out there right now? See, I could go outside and like see how warm it is, but I'll just check in my basement. 15 degrees right now, going up to 19. Oh, and sunny. Okay, that's good enough for me. For 15 degrees, that is leather jacket, sweater, t-shirt, jeans. I'm good to go for motorcycle ride. Okay, that's cool. And maybe I'll do that next. Yeah, so today is Wednesday. So I'll be back on Friday because I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern. And we'll just kind of shut her down. So thank you for watching.